whistles. I got the best program we got.
Let's go. Where is the that like 30-second count? Here's what we'll do. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back and live. Ben the Bane Davis here, and my man Chris, Team MMA Uncensored, about to break down what's been a very interesting day of combat sports. You had a juxtaposition, Chris, that we often see now with influencer boxing and UFC cards being on the same day of maybe a kind of circus act. You know, there's a lot of bells and whistles with influencer boxing, tag team boxing, and then a pretty run-of-the-mill UFC Apex card. Top of it, though, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Ben?
I'm fantastic. Glad to be here. A little bummed, of course, that I'm not in Colombia calling Empire MMA 6, admittedly, But boy, let's start off with the main event of UFC, Vegas 81. Edson Barboza Jr. rallies back from what I thought was going to be a first-round TKO win for Sadiq Youssef, but really shows that veteran mettle, and over the course of the 4 remaining rounds, just kind of came back in there, found every way to win, mixed up the grappling late in the fight as well. I was thoroughly impressed. I think these are new wrinkles that Edson's adding at 37, 12 years into the career. Chris, what a 25-minute affair we had.
Oh my God. What a day we've had, Ben. Prime card. Then we just had a crazy main event. Edson Barboza at age 37 just pulled one off, man. Pulled one off. Unanimous decision. He's in the crowd right now at the Apex celebrating. What a fight. I think Youssef kind of let that one go. What do you think?
I would agree with that, man. I mean, you had Edson pretty much dead to rights in round number 1. And I do think there's some value in punching himself out. Maybe he wanted that finish a little too much. You know, first main event in the UFC, I believe. First 5-round fight. First time he's been competing in a year. You know, he's been on the shelf. This guy's probably itching to go put a statement in front of the MMA fans. And yeah, that's easier said than done against a guy like Edson Barboza. So I do believe, Youssef let this one slide. And I don't know. I mean, the commentators were praising him and giving him some props for like the leg kicks to the back leg, not the lead leg, you know, those little nuances. But feels like as the fight progressed, all of those small details Sadiq stopped doing, all those small movements, those little unique strikes that led to those early moments and early big successes. He just stopped doing them. I don't know if he lost the range, lost the timing, lost the confidence, right? That was a big narrative. But I would agree, Sadiq Youssef could have got this win, could have gotten the hand raised, and he didn't.
Like you said, Ben, it was his first main event. The guy's got talent. I mean, what's his nickname again, Ben?
Super Sadiq Youssef.
Exactly. He'll be
I do want
a nickname like that.
With a nickname like that, exactly. And a real test. I mean, Edson Barboza is a perennial, I would say, gatekeeper of the divisions between, 145 and 155. He's taken some tough fights, fought some really tough opponents. Khabib Nurmagomedov right inside the competition for Edson Barboza. So he's a great guy to test yourself against. And Sadiq's a young cat. I think he's like, 24, 6 years old, something like that. So definitely not done, and he'll grow from this. I do want to explore some of the other fights on the UFC card before we venture into the realm of influencer boxing. Adrian Yanez, or as the pronunciation now, Yanez, that he's corrected everybody. Tough night, man. Those leg kicks aren't something you want to play around with. And, I commend him for hanging in there as long as he did. He ate so much damage. I think a lot of people would have quit way sooner. I mean, the guy could barely fucking stand, couldn't get out of the octagon, but that was a tough return to bantamweight for our guy, Adrian Yanez.
Yeah. I mean, he suffered I believe he suffered a loss to Rob Font. Was it a KO or a TKO?
Yeah, Rob,
a year ago.
Font was able to knock him out. I think a good 5-6 months ago. And this was the comeback, but not an easy opponent though.
Right. I have no doubt in my mind, no doubt, Adrian Yanes will be back. He's young. He's a young stud. And real quick, Yusuf, 30 years old.
There you go. So a little bit older than we thought, but still, I mean, the athletic prime is like what, 31, 32. That's what everyone always says. So he's we're just hitting the real sweet spot for Sadiq. But Giannis, yeah, it's hard because a guy who starts inside the UFC 5-0, lot of performance bonuses, a lot of hype and love from the fans. Now on a 2-fight skid being finished both times. I mean, we've seen guys bounce back time and time again. Look at Charles Oliveira, who had a 4-fight losing streak at one point, being finished every single time, and then went on to string together one of the greatest win streaks and then get that belt. So I don't know. I think, Adrian, I agree. We'll be back, but against who? I mean, that would be the question, I suppose.
Having some mic issues. Why don't you take over and I'll fix it?
Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. I think, maybe probably the outside the top 15, of course, can't have Adrian, compete up, but I think there's a lot of value. I could look it up right now. Probably should have already looked it up. That one's on me, gang. But Jonathan Martinez, wow. Let's praise him. I know we've talked how much of a bummer this was for Adrian Yanez, but Jonathan Martinez notching the second TKO leg kick victory of his career in the UFC and looking really exceptional doing it. I mean, this is a guy who is 19-4 overall and just looked effortless. I mean, I don't want to say he made it look easy necessarily, but he really was economical in there. It felt like he wasn't taking some insane risks. He knew what the game plan was, and he stuck to it. Now, that's his second victory of 2023 over Said Nurmagomedov. And again, Cub Swanson, Vince Morales, and then a draw with Alejandro Perez way back at the beginning of 2022. And Perez hasn't done anything since. So, I mean, it's a weird bar that Jonathan Martinez is setting, but I think he's like, what, number 11, number 12? Give that guy a top 7, maybe, or the top 8. I think Martinez is going to be butchering a lot of people at 135 if they're not of the upper caliber.
Yeah, man, I had some audio issues with my microphone.
Oh, good.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear you now? Excellent. You're coming through.
All right, thank you. Shay, can you hear me now? I think we're good now. I had a little audio issue, and I'm watching this Barboza fight. Holy moly, man. He took a whopping.
Yeah. I mean, that main event, again, was just a brutal back and forth. And I love the kind of like combos. And this is something you could say with any Barboza fight, but that right hand and then he dig with the left to the body just over and over. I don't really see that level of diversity, that commitment to diversity in striking. But I mean, hey, a guy like Barboza, his career was made on these big moments. And that Darce choke, I mean, Chris, tell me about that submission attempt.
Oh, my goodness. I'm watching this spinning back kick, man. Remember when he hit Terry Etienne with that kick and he just went out? I mean, that guy was never the same after that. Unbelievable. No, that was unbelievable. His eye is matched up. Little sweep right there. Goes for the little unbelievable win, man. I'm 37 years old. He's been around for a long time. We should look into his resume one day and just break that thing down. He's fought a lot of studs.
That's a whole video right there. Yeah,
I'm so
the legend
about this prime card, man. I can't honestly, I can't focus. I'm not focusing.
Let's take it to it. The prime card results. Man, what a weird event this was. The biggest card in influencer boxing history. And I know a lot of people that aren't familiar with many of the names or characters in the scene. This was the equivalent of like a UFC card with 7 title fights on it. You know what I mean? That's kind of, I would say, the vibe that they were trying to put on. And Dillon Danis, Logan Paul, go the full 6 rounds. I think Dillon Danis landed a collective 9 punches is what they said. I've got a lot of thoughts on it, but Chris, I want to hear your opinion first.
9 punches landed through 5 or so rounds. And he was 0-2 on takedowns. And that's a boxing event. 0-2. And he went for a guillotine in was it the 6th round?
It was the 6th round, yeah.
6th round. And then while Logan shook him off, and then Logan got a punch while he was on the ground. Boom! While he was on the ground. And then that's when the mayhem. To be honest with you, I was shocked that Dillon Danis showed up for the fight. And
really?
Honestly shocked and impressed.
I am impressed. I mean, he got in there, and there
He
is a
went
lot of
into enemy territory, right? He flew
absolutely.
over from the United States. He flew over there, and everybody had something against him. So I
To be
mean,
fair, it was kind of. I mean, it's not like Logan Paul's from Manchester, England. It was a neutral grounding, I would say, respective to their backgrounds, but enemy territory in the sense of it's influencer boxing, and he's been antagonizing for months. But
yeah,
here's where I draw issue with one Dillon Danis is you have an unbelievable smear marketing campaign and you are just a villain online in the buildup and you got attention, you get eyes, and then in the ring, what the hell? Zero effort to win, zero effort to find a finish. I would assume that a guy who's had years training with Conor McGregor, a guy who is, I think, 2-0 in Bellator. Granted, again, those were more jujitsu based victories. Just a mixed martial artist for the amount of time he's been. You'd be able to land more than 9 fucking punches on Logan Paul of all people. I mean, come on.
So here's my theory on the thing. One is his advice from Alex Pereira, former UFC middleweight
Training with
champion.
Pereira, yeah.
Right. And that's who he trained with primarily up near New York, New Jersey. And from what I was told, Alex Pereira's coach, and Alex Pereira told him to kind of just gas him out a little bit, and then gun for it, 5th and 6th round. And I think that was the approach. He just stood there and just took punches like nonstop. It was borderline ridiculous,
Yeah, and I think that the rope-a-dope strategy does have its merit, especially a guy like Logan who does carry a lot of muscle mass and is a bigger guy. Those first 2 rounds, I was okay with Dillon's approach. I was like, oh, smart, really letting Logan have those big barrages. But there was never a second gear. There was never another level that Dillon was going to punch into. And I don't know. We got Galactus here. Talking about the biggest winner being Dillon Danis. I'm not sure, Chris. Let's break down
the biggest winner. Wow.
I don't think so. I think that Dillon Danis walks away from this with a big reputational hit. I don't believe that there is anything else that he can squeeze in combat sports. For the last 4 years, he's made a name off of not fighting. He has made a name of being booked in things or pulling out of things. That was the reputation. Now he shows up and looks completely terrible. And gets disqualified again. This wasn't I think they ruled it a majority decision or whatever, but it will go down as a DQ because he's going for the takedown attempts, going for the submissions, and doesn't. But he did everything but fight in that boxing match, in my opinion, Chris. He did everything but fight. And Todd Grisham brought this up later in the match. He went, "Listen, all of these antics are cool in the lead up, and they're cool if you're winning and you're trying even, but to land 9 punches, not even show up and be pulling guard and going for these takedowns, it's just pathetic. I'm sorry, but it is just pathetic, So I don't know. Everything he does then the next thing he does is still massive. What's next? What can Dillon Danis do next that people will care about? Because if it's something competition related, well, we've got our answer on how he's going to actually perform. So the cat's out of the bag. I feel like the mystery's gone when it comes to Dillon Danis. Chris, I really don't know what he does next in the competitive sense.
Let's unpack this real quick. Okay. Dillon Danis. All right. Me and Dillon Danis have some history.
Same. Yeah, funnily enough.
We do, buddy. So at one point, I really liked Dillon Danis. I felt like, he was a decent person and nice. And me, I've got a lot of social media pages. And he would message me, and then we swapped phone numbers. And then he would text me, around the holidays and just be friendly. And then he would always ask me to post something for him, make a poster and post it. And it was mainly to keep him relevant because it was 2 or 3 years. So I did that for him on my pages. And he was supposed to give me interviews, and he snubbed me. And then he would block me for a year, and then he'd come back, and this was a repetitive thing for 2 or 3 years. I mean, I can show you the screenshots. So I did him a lot of favors, and then when it came down to it, he blew us off. We tried to get him on the Overdogs podcast And he basically said no. I tried to get him on my show. He said no. And my opinion of Dillon Danis is he makes promises to a lot of people and he doesn't come through. He does that shit on his Twitter. He tries to tell people to follow him here and he's going to give them money.
The crypto scamming, go follow this NFT project. And it's
right. Yeah. If you follow this, he wants people to follow his Instagram and then he says he's going to cash app them. I mean, nobody's getting no money. So his reputation is garbage. His boxing skills are worse. And personally, I mean, I was happy he showed up. I was happy he got in the ring. He did that walk. But, complete disappointment. I paid $54.99. I can show you a receipt. Definitely not worth it. Main event, co-main event, garbage.
And talking about that main event, and we'll return to the Dillon Danis and Logan Paul because there's a lot of juice we can still squeeze from that co-main event.
There's a ton of juice. From that.
We didn't even talk about Logan Paul really.
We haven't even touched it yet.
But I do want to let's take it to that marquee matchup, and this was dubbed a double main event. I've always thought that was kind of stupid. You got your main and you got your co-main. Danis and Paul, even though it trended, I think better in the marketing wise and in the lead up. KSI versus Tommy Fury was the main event, and boy, Tommy Fury gets it done. I think it was a majority decision. I had the scorecards somewhere and there was a little bit of suspicion. I didn't like some of the math. One of the judges can't count, and one of the judges didn't like validate the point taken in round 2. I think one of them so I was like, you pull back the weeds, that is a bit interesting. But KSI, here's my take on the boxing ability. The bouncing and the moving the hands up and down, it's unique. I think that it'll work against a lot of these influencers that are trying to train and learn the fundamentals. And then they get in there with a guy who is anything but fundamental. It is very creative. However, against a guy like Tommy Fury, who does train and has been competing for his entire life and comes from a bloodline of, listen, I think I'm the authority when it comes to talking about the sons of legends and the bloodline of legends, right? I just think it was a little too much for KSI. I think that he found himself, and we spoke about this during the fight, he found himself in the rhythm of throwing the overhand, throwing that right, overextending a little bit, and then falling into the clinch. And I did like some of the work he did there, the body shots and then coming up. But it didn't seem like he knew a lot of the answers outside of that combo, because he threw that and that was the same sequence over and over with an overextending punch and then a clinch. Overextending punch, clinch. That was basically the entire fight. I know a lot of people weren't really happy with it. And yeah, I don't know. I think it was a big jump up for KSI, and I do think Tommy won.
I think KSI won, or it was a draw.
Really? I'd love to know. So when you break down the scoring of it, where do we arrive at a KSI victory?
Okay, so let's break down the rounds. You tell me what you had, I'll tell you what I had, and let's go.
Sure. Round 1, I think I would have to give to listen, I got a bad memory. Also, we would just watch some UFC, but I think round 1 KSI, because he did have that one big punch, and it was relatively
I had
even,
round
I would
1
say.
KSI. Correct. Same. So that's 2019.
2019, or 10-9, round 1.
Oh, sorry, 10-9. Yep. And then the second round. Sorry.
Second round. I think I went with a 9. Did you go 9-9?
I did 9-9.
9-9. Okay, so we've got the 20, the 1917 or 18. The math's gonna be very difficult here. I don't know if I'm able to do this in my head.
Hey, we haven't even started drinking yet.
I know, gosh.
And we can't even do math.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got a 10-9 and then you got a 9-9. So you got a what is that?
It's a 1917. And then honestly, I'll give you the sweep. I think every other round I'd give to Tommy Fury. I think rounds 3, 4, 5, and 6 I gave to Tommy.
Yeah, I believe I gave one of them. I think it was 3 or 4 to KSI, which would have made it a draw.
Yep. So and honestly, if it was a draw, I don't know if I would have been mad because of that point deduction.
Fair. That would have been more fair. So here's my thing. Because of Tommy's size,
Oh, Chris, I might
Easily
have
taken another
lost you.
point away. Did you notice that he looked almost exactly like Michael Venom Page, the way his style is? And then Venom was there too.
Well,
That
that's where he
style,
trains. He trains out of London Shoot Box. So
right?
him,
Exactly the same way.
yep. And I love that he is incorporating that style. And you can
I
tell
do.
that he's really given a lot to training and evolving and picking up the ropes. A lot of these influencers are taking this seriously. And as a guy who stepped in there and plans on having a lot more integration with the scene, these people take it seriously. Are they going to be WBO, IBF champions or challengers? No,
No.
never. But I think that there is so much merit in the effort put forth. And look at Salt Poppy. I mean, let's talk about that fight. Salt Poppy's had a ridiculous weight transformation, trimming himself down. But Chris, tonight just wasn't enough. Slim Albaher with a bit of a, I don't want to say a comeback necessarily, but
It kind of was. It kind of was, right? Salt had two or 3 rounds, and then listen. You said something today when we were texting during that fight, and I showed you the picture. So let me see if I can bring this up real quick for the guys. And this had me cracking up, and it could be true. So let me pull up this nice little picture. We did a little side by side of Salt Poppy, and here's a little side by side, right there. And you said to me, you said he needs that chin back.
He needs that back. Let's put on some more. Let's get some of those pounds back. No, Jay, because that's the thing. Any of those punches from Slim would have knocked out anybody. He is a very powerful guy. I think he's 7-0 is what Slim is with 5 knockouts. So Slim's got power. And Salt, I think here's what we can really identify is a little cockiness. A little arrogance, a little Salt getting comfortable in round 4 after cruising through rounds 1 through 3. Hands get lower. He's sitting in the pocket, taking some photos of his work, and then boom, gets put away for it. So I think that both guys can walk away with some academic moments. Slim, those early rounds, you got to start a bit quicker. Got to start a little faster. You can't eat as much damage. You can't let guys get these leads on you in only 6-round fights. But Salt Poppy, I mean, he still looked good. I think he still looked like he's improving. He looks comfortable. This is what I love the most. He's comfy. There's no nerves. There's no anxious energy. I think that's incredibly important. And while it cost him tonight, I think overall the fight was going swimmingly for him. I think I might be losing you a little bit. I don't know if my connection's good or bad, Chris.
It's in and out. It's probably because it's alive.
That's true.
Okay. Yeah.
But I want to ask you about this one. I don't know if you saw this fight. It was Ed Matthews and Swarms.
I did. And
yeah.
Listen, I'm an MMA guy, right? But this influencer boxing, it really, kind of draw me in, right? I'm like, well, who's this guy? And Matthews was he came into this fight on 2 days notice or 1 day notice, right? Because the other guy got arrested, right?
Ryan Taylor got arrested.
That KO was tremendous in his ankle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure he broke his ankle or something because it just folded underneath him.
Yeah, there was that roll. I didn't notice that initially, and then I saw a zoomed in replay of it, and it did not look good. I hope Swarms' ankle is okay, and I hope he overall is okay. Because Jesus, 30 seconds in round 1. And wow. Ed Matthews, like you just mentioned, 0 notice, just barrels into the pocket and a left hook on the inside, clips him. And I don't know, I felt bad, because Swarms is a guy who he fought KSI. It did not go his way at all. But he's come back. He's won on Misfits before. This was supposed to be another comeback type performance. And you get starched in 30 seconds. That's not easy. That's not easy to grapple with. Yeah.
One punch, bro.
There's another fight that I thought was interesting here, and I mentioned the format earlier, the tag team boxing, the Misfits Tag Team Championship was a split draw. It's a split draw. B. Dave and Luis Pineda and Nick Lamau and Alex Wasabi go the distance. This was one of the fights I didn't watch, so I'm going to defer to you. How did it go, and what was your takeaway?
It was just a wild event, man. where do you see people boxing and tag teaming in? You know, like these guys are starting to get. I don't know all their names because I'm kind of new to this. I'm an MMA guy,
Right.
but I watched the whole thing. Me and the wife, and they're beating the crap out of each other, and all of a sudden they get tired and they tag someone in. So the new guy comes in, and then the new guy comes in. It was just 3 rounds, and I'll be it was completely even. It was perfect. It was a perfect draw. And it was a great entertaining. I believe it was 3 rounds. Was it 3 rounds?
I think it was 4 rounds, if I'm reading this correctly. Actually, 4 or 5.
It was nonstop. It was a fun fight. It should have been a draw because it was completely equal.
Good
fight. Fun.
I can't wait to watch it back. And there was a lot of chirping and not bad blood necessarily between the 2 teams, but there was a rivalry. These are the two most successful tag teams that Misfits has had. And granted, it's not like they're doing a lot of these tag team events, but it is very innovative. It is very fresh and new. And those 4 guys have been the most successful at it. That's why they were in fucking GQ magazine this week. I don't know if you saw that. That's pretty cool.
Did. It's amazing.
The other fight, and this is one of the guys who transitioned early from MMA. He fought in Bellator. Mm-hmm. Now he's just lighting it up in influencer boxing. It's the pretty boy, Anthony Taylor. AT, I've talked to him a ton. He's a very nice guy. Now, I think you met him, of course, at the Karate Combat event. Tell me about Anthony Taylor and give your thoughts on that fight.
Let me tell you, Anthony Taylor, when he's around, everybody's paying attention to Anthony Taylor. He's funny. He's loud. He's obnoxious. He'll get in your face. He's hilarious. And I met him in the Dominican Republic about a month ago for Karate Combat 41. Great guy. Hung out with all the Misfits guys. Chase Demore. Oh, we got to get into that fight too.
Got to talk about that one.
Goodness. Him and Chase are real close. Anthony. I mean, the fight was not great, but he won. I mean, the comments and social media were just horrible, man.
It's interesting because like with AT, that's how he fights.
That's it.
That's how he beat Salt Poppy. That's how he beat, I think, whoever he fought before Salt Poppy. It's the same thing. It's clinching. It's veteran moves. Like Anthony Taylor is not a guy who is going in there and Francis Ngannouing his way through these individuals. He's fighting smart. He's fighting like a veteran. He's fighting like a guy who fought in Bellator. He's fighting like a guy who reached some serious heights within mixed martial arts. And that is the litmus test for influencers and why I think Anthony Taylor should be kept. He should be kept far away from most guys because he's going to do that to him. He's going to, he's going to beat you with the experience. And King Kenny deserved that shot to maybe cross to the upper echelon and break out of the bubble. But this was a reminder. Hey.
Totally. We're talking, Anthony Taylor has so much experience, and he's going up against a lot of these influencers.
He's watching them.
Absolutely. I mean, look at his style. The first second of the fight, Ben, he rushes them and charges into him. And what does he do? He does that the whole fight. He smothers them. He hits them, he smothers them, gets a couple punches in, and he makes sure that guy can have no offense whatsoever. It's
the most frustrating guy to fight in Misfits.
It's like fighting Khabib.
It's suffocating, exactly. But that's your new Misfits lightweight champion. That's the top of the throne, and I'm so happy for him individually. But when I kind of step back and look at this scene and the future of it, like I said, there's a bubble, and we got to stay within it. We can't let these top personalities like Salt Poppies and and King Kenny fight guys like AT because they're going to lose. So if you want influencer boxing to continue, you have to have the influencers fight the influencers, or else the guys that we're building up, the guys that are making waves on social media are just going to keep losing. And then there goes the entire future.
You are 100% right, Ben.
I am. And it's a bummer, but that's the reality we're dealing with. We're not pros. These guys, we're not going to be beating people like AT who have been training their entire lives, who have been fighting their entire lives. It's not something that is logical. But I want to take it. You mentioned it. Chase Demore, Tempo Arts. Chase is a great guy. He's obviously physically such a Greek
specimen.
god. Yeah, a specimen. And
you know what my wife said? She said, I didn't know they could do steroids in boxing. I said, honey, he's not on steroids. He's just built like that. I mean, incredible.
Yeah, just genetically gifted, 100%.
Yeah,
And again, there's been several Happy Punch fighters. I'm super pumped to have been joining the Happy Punch team before my fight. So we've chatted a lot in the last couple weeks, and Tempo Arts is like the exact opposite of Chase Demore in a lot of ways physically. Tempo is a bigger guy. He's shedding some pounds, but he got it done. Your thoughts on that fight, Chris?
Man. Okay, so when that fight started, I had just I think I missed like maybe 20 seconds of the start, and Chase had him in the first round. He was that long jab, pumping him in the jab, and was it Tempo Arts? That's that Tempo.
Yeah,
he had that huge overhand, and he clipped him, I think, once in the first, and then the second Tempo was, I mean, Chase gassed. Okay, he gassed, and how? Like, I mean, I don't know how.
big guy, probably doesn't do as much cardio as he needs.
I was thinking road work. I mean, it's a title fight. Wouldn't you do road work? Road work, right?
I think one of the issues is, because road work, upping the cardio, just increasing the stamina, that requires a lot of training and exhausting training. And a guy like Chase Demore, who has to fulfill whatever X amount of social media obligations, or if he's going to events and has to do these shoots or record this and that, maybe some of them don't have the time to invest in like seriously improving technique or ability. Like I can certainly relate to that. My boxing is never going to, really make leaps and bounds. I travel too much. I'm on the road every week. So like I can hit the treadmills. I can work on my cardio for sure. And I do. But I also recognize that I haven't had a single pad session with my coach since the fight, so maybe Chase is suffering from that a little bit. But split decision, one judge did think he did enough to win. Do you think that there was an argument for Chase?
He absolutely did. Chase won that fight, hands down, 2 rounds to 1. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. We could rewatch that fight with the 18,000 people watching us live right now, 18,002. And I'd say 18,000 would say he won. It was 2-1. I mean,
does it get more simple than that? Yeah, and that's the round by round scoring. Like if you gas, but it's the third and you've already locked up the first 2, that's the beauty of combat sports at times, right? If you are a fighter and you are gassing in that moment, but maybe it sets up a rematch, right? Maybe that's what we're leading to, is a second bout between Tempo Arts and Chase Demore. I think this does mean that Chase is 0-4 in influencer boxing, which is tough to see, but there's a lot of respect associated with getting back in there time and time again, even though you're not getting the results. Like Deji, I think Deji went 0-3 or 0-4, KSI's younger brother, before he was able to pick up a victory. So, Chase Demore, I think if he can just fix a couple things, address a couple weaknesses, it's really going to raise his entire tide. The one other fight that I want to get to, this was a rematch, talking about potential rematches. This was running it back of an absolute barn burner, Dean the Great versus Waleed Sharks. Oh boy. I don't know if you had the chance to watch their first fight. I watched it for the first time like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. These guys, Chris, might be some of the best influencer boxers right now. Like they're unbelievably talented. And Dean the Great, boy, this kid's better than great, Chris.
The dude dislocated his shoulder in the second or third round and still won.
Yeah.
Without a hitch. And unbelievable skills. He could take a punch. He's fast. He's got it all.
The timing and the accuracy on some of those counters from Dean the Great, just pinpoint, boom, right on the nose. It is a really exciting guy to watch, and the development is so enthralling. And who knows, maybe you do a third fight, because Waleed Sharks is, I think, the perfect dance partner. I think they bring the best out of each other. There is bad blood. They do not like each other. And, it was a tough night for Waleed Sharks. One judge had it 49-44. 2 of them had it 48-45. Like, Waleed struggled. And if you remember the first fight, in my opinion, Waleed Sharks was winning that. I think he knocked Dean down on 2 occasions, was cruising to a victory, and then Dean with that beautiful overhand right that split the guard and crushed Waleed way back in, I think it was 2018. And now things have changed. Seems like Dean's the better guy. So I don't know. I think if I'm Waleed Sharks, I try and angle for a trilogy, especially if Dean's going to hold on to that belt for a while. So, might as well.
I saw a tweet during that fight from your last opponent, Gabriel Silva. Did you see that tweet?
Big Gabe, baby. Yeah. Look, Dean and Gabe train at Brickyard, which is a really unbelievable boxing gym. And after my fight with Gabe, I was in FaZe Temper's dressing room, hanging out with him for a moment, and Overt Flow was there. And they obviously have a really close relationship with Gabe. And one of FaZe's coaches was telling me, hey, dude, listen, Gabe's training with world champions at Brickyard. He was like, Gabe was training with like WBC contenders, and like they got some real dogs in that gym, high level individuals. So Dean the Great, like I talked about how he's really flipped a switch the last couple of years and improved dramatically. It's because of Brickyard. It's because that's what that does to people, being in that environment. And, I can give you that personal firsthand experience with one of them. They're good fighters, man.
Absolutely. During the fight, I believe Gabe tweeted they need to stop the fight because he thought that Waleed was taking too much damage.
I think that it's a fair perspective, because again,
it's influencer boxing.
It's influencer boxing, guys. This is like an amateur mixed martial arts philosophy. Yeah, it's about entertainment. It's about the promotion of it, and everyone's having a good time. But you don't want some real altering damage to occur. You don't want guys walking out of here losing eyeballs or seriously impacting their vision or health. So I don't know. I mean, if it was stopped, you wouldn't hear a complaint from me. But I do want to not complain necessarily, but I had some not higher expectations, but I was anticipating a little bit more from one of Brazil's biggest stars, Whindersson Nunes. This guy lost to King Kenny in the Kingpin tournament and didn't. I don't want to say the term didn't show up, Chris. I don't want to use that verbiage, but 40-36 on all scorecards to my mate Nate. It was not close.
Nope. It was not close. I missed a portion of this fight, so I'm going to let you take over.
I was not able to watch the fight at all. So we're both operating with it.
Missed it.
And we both missed it, unfortunately. I'm bummed. I was a little tied up earlier today, which I was very sad about, so I didn't get the chance to watch as much of the prime card. But yeah, I saw that Whindersson Nunes lost after the fight with the results were posted. And I don't want to say I'm not surprised. My mate Nate has been training for many years. I've heard that he's like a big influencer in Thailand, I believe, and has a great striking background. Whindersson Nunes, after the fight with King Kenny, I mean, you could see the holes. You could see where this guy needs to improve and get better. But he's also one of the busiest motherfuckers in this scene. I mean, he is a very, very successful superstar in the music industry. And I can't imagine the plate that he has in front of him, the time, the balance that he needs. So I don't know. I think Whindersson Nunes is a special person in influencer boxing, and he shouldn't be fighting against guys like my mate Nate. You should be giving him, I don't want to say giving him cans, Chris. I don't want to say give him layups, but if Whindersson Nunes, yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Get him a good knockout. Get him a viral moment. Yeah, like what's gonna be better? Him dropping every round? What's it gonna hurt? Hey, if I gotta get in there and lose again, I'll do it. Whindersson needs a win.
You taking one for Team Misfits, brother?
Taking one for Team Misfits. Team Brazil. Viva Brazil.
Hey, real quick. I want to give a big shout out to Overdogs Podcast, Kampai Pandas. We just joined the team. I'll bring you into some of the information and then we'll talk some more about it, Ben. But real thankful to be on Team Overdog Podcast, Kampai Pandas. And I'm happy that Ben's on, we're doing these collabs and he's actually going to be officially on Team MMA Uncensored as far as, today.
Let's go. Pumped to be here. Best brand.
Ben, appreciate it. Ben's going to be doing these lives. He's going to be doing all sorts of stuff. And, we're going to be probably traveling around with Ben, maybe in his next fight and, doing some behind the scenes stuff. And actually showing you what Ben does. Because the last fight, you really didn't have much publicity, and even when you were boxing, you didn't really have somebody holding the phone for you or the camera. So the
It
next
was
time you do compete, we're gonna make sure you have the right team behind you, bud.
We'll get the push. We'll get the full marketing machine going.
Yeah.
It was weird. I did try to like organize some videographers, some cameramen, and I had some conversations with guys I've worked with in the past, and just like nothing worked out. I had a month's notice, and it was fun. But no, dude, I'm so happy to be here. MMA Uncensored, one of the best brands I think in the business. That the results speak for itself and the numbers speak for itself. And again, Ice Bags and Mac Malley and Mike Perry over on the Overdogs podcast, they're crushing it. And Ken Pipan it has such a bright future in media that I'm happy to be here. I know we're having a good time, and let's take it back to one fight that I do want to get your opinion on. It was probably the, for lack of better word, the hottest fight of the night.
Yeah,
Astrid Wet and Alexia Grace. Your thoughts on that one?
Man, I just enjoyed the view. I mean, it was a good fight. They're both real pretty, right? They're both real pretty. And the brunette, what was her name?
Alexia Grace.
She came on in the second and third round. I honestly had it a draw. Because I think was there a point deduction or something during that one?
I think there had to have been some sort of a point deduction, because like you look at the scorecards, 28-28 on one, and then 30-26 on all the others. So
point deduction for something in that fight. I'm not sure what it was. But Astrid Wet retains the title. She gets her title back. I guess the title was taken by Alexia, and I see trilogy.
I'd love to see him running back. So the history on Astrid Wet and Alexia Grace is Astrid had some obviously a breakdown in negotiation with Misfits and Kingpin and some of the promotions. She wanted to just do her own event, Wet Promotions. And so her and Alexia like organized this. They were going to have one fight that they were going to stream. And then she fell through a table and the event was called off. I'm not sure how much they cover this on the broadcast, but it was a weird scenario last month. Thankfully, all of it was obviously just to book this for the prime card. And I wouldn't mind seeing it again. I wouldn't mind seeing either of them fight again.
Have you met them in person?
I spent a little bit of time with Astrid Wet in Newcastle in September. She was hanging out with a couple of members of the team, and nicest person of all time. I mean, everybody here that's in Misfits and in the influencer boxing realm, they are all just really nice people. I want to give a special shout out to B Dave. B Dave, the Crab King, the Crab Daddy, is just a really cool cat. He's a young guy. He's really improving as a content creator, and just like. It's weird how grounded a lot of these people are, because you think about their following, it's 500,000, it's millions across all platforms, and they're just regular ass motherfuckers.
Normal dudes.
But I want to return now to Logan Paul and Dillon Danis, because I think, like I said, we can squeeze a little bit more out of this one. And LP, Logan Paul, impressed me a little bit. I mean, really worked the body. I thought the combinations were a bit tighter and sharper, and the pressure, he didn't gas as badly as I was expecting. I mean, that dude, his work rate every single round stayed about the same. I didn't really see much of a drop off. And granted, it's not like Dillon gave him something to work up against. It's not like Danis was making him work. It was just a punching bag for 6 rounds. But I was very impressed by Logan Paul, which is not something I thought I would say.
I mean, what can you say about Logan Paul? I mean, look what he's done in his career. I mean, they just probably put on one of the biggest events in boxing of the year, right? Wouldn't this be one of the biggest? I mean, I heard some preliminary numbers on pay-per-views, and there's a massive buzz going around on this event. So let me just say this: Logan Paul, he got jacked the fuck up yesterday by that microphone. I mean, I mean, he got jacked up, right? And he still showed up. And he won all 5.5 rounds. And when they did the face-off, he kept telling Dillon, "I forgive you. I forgive you." And the reason he did that, because he didn't want to be really angry, so he could kind of settle down. And you see the fight; he only had a few big bursts, but when he did it, I mean, he put Dillon in the corner, and he wasn't moving. So
No.
yeah, huge fight. I think he's done, right? Is he done fighting influencer boxing?
You think Logan Paul's done?
Possibly, maybe.
I'm not sure. I think there is still a future.
Tommy's done.
Because where does Tommy go? I mean, he's knocked off Jake Paul and KSI from the ranks of the unbeaten. That nobody's gonna beat him. Nobody beats Tommy Fury in influencer boxing. So it's like there's no point. I think like Tommy Fury could.
I think KSI beats him.
You think in like a rematch or some?
I do.
I mean,
Can they go up on the rounds, Ben? Can they go 8-10 rounds, maybe?
Both guys were a little tired. I think both KSI and Tommy were gassing a little bit. I think by the end of that fight, their staminas were about spent. I don't know. I think KSI has more of a chance to beat Tommy in a rematch than maybe Jake Paul does. Because if you think about if you look at both guys' performances, while Jake Paul did get the knockdown, and I was impressed by Jake Paul, and I am very impressed by his abilities that he's gained over the last 6 or 7 years. KSI did a little bit better, maybe lower output, and maybe a lot of the same combos that resulted in the clinching and maybe a snoozer of a fight. But Tommy was teeing off on Jake at points. Tommy was really unloading, and you saw Jake just covering up, retreating. It's not like Tommy had KSI in a lot of trouble. In fact, Tommy was having a hard time landing on KSI at times and couldn't establish a jab, couldn't establish a ring presence. So I was, maybe the offense wasn't as there for KSI as it has been. I was still like, okay, this is a respectable performance against a opponent that's way better than anyone KSI's fought before.
Like I said earlier, Ben, I had KSI winning that fight, or it was a draw. I mean, we had the 1 point deduction for the punching in the back of the head. He should have lost 2 points. I think at worst, KSI had the draw. At worst, I don't know what happened. KSI said at the presser, he said they couldn't let me win. They couldn't let an influencer defeat a professional boxer. I mean, you got Tyson Fury in the crowd. I mean, come on now.
I think it does. It begs the question, and I mean, this is more of put on the tinfoil hat of sorts. But is there that level of fixing? We know boxing's corrupt to some way, shape, or form. Like that gets very highbrow on it. But I don't know. I think I wouldn't have been mad at a draw. However, there have been a lot of draws in influencer boxing. But I mean, there were draws on this card. So I don't know. I think that KSI should take a step back in competition from a guy like Tommy. Go put on another performance. I mean, he's a very heavy-handed guy. He's been knocking out all these influencers. Do one of those and then maybe see. I think if Tommy Fury wants to compete again in Misfits, it should be another pro, and it should, be on a Misfits card, but not up against an influencer. I'd love to see what Tommy's level is against the pro right now. He's fought Jake Paul. He's fought KSI. I don't know boxing. What fucking weight class are they in? Like the cruiserweights or the?
What does he weigh? 200?
I thought they weighed in at like 185, 183.
Tommy Fury weighs 185.
Did they? I mean, I'm not sure.
You could be right. I'm just saying the guy's physique. Jeez.
Big motherfucker. But I don't, I would like to see him fight someone that's in the same ballpark because again, I think it impacts the future of influencer boxing. If you have him fight influencers, it doesn't make sense to me.
I agree 100%. I'm just trying to come up with a good name, like Tommy Fury versus
maybe like
we'll kick that one around. Real quick. When the decision came out, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, everybody was just, they couldn't believe it. They all had their prime chains on, they were ready to celebrate, and wow, anticlimactic for prime, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, hey, they still got a lot of marketing out of this. They still got,
they did, buddy.
They got their money, yeah. But that, because sort of to rewind back, right, the tinfoil hat, it's KSI's promotion. It's prime everywhere, it's, like Tommy getting the win. I don't know if I would say that's more of a rig than if KSI had won. I would have been like, of course, it's KSI's promotion. Of course, he would get the nod in this very split down the line decision, maybe from some people's perspectives. That would be where I go, but no, there's a little bit of Conor McGregor also going on tonight. A couple comments from Logan Paul to McGregor. McGregor tweeting back at him. What are your thoughts on that back and forth?
I tell you what, I went to the Twitter and I listened to Conor McGregor's 45-second audio clip. It's amazing. It's hilarious. He was completely waxed out of his mind. And then he said he was interested in boxing KSI. I'm not sure if he's interested or he was just taking a jab at him. Conor McGregor posted some pictures of Logan kissing Nina, I believe. And then McGregor, his first tweet was, I was impressed by Dillon Danis.
Yeah, I think he was just saying that because they're buds.
What was there friend.
Yeah, like what was there to be impressed by? Again, I respect for getting in there.
Pick one thing that you were impressed by Dillon Danis by. Can you pick one thing?
He didn't get finished, I guess. Like I couldn't, I got finished. But he also fought to survive. Like, when I think about my fight, I went in there to win. I went in there to throw hammers and trade, and I didn't see Dillon. I didn't see Dillon do that. So I'm like,
you did. You threw hammers and you traded.
And I paid for it. Yeah, and I think Dillon should have paid for it a little bit. I think you should try it if you're going to talk shit for months.
Do you feel gypped a little bit?
No. What do you mean?
I mean, because you put everything into your fight. You went for the kill, and you watched this card today, and you seen people play it safe. At least 2 or 3 fights play it safe.
I mean, that's on them, though. That doesn't gyp me. It doesn't impact me.
Though. That's not the product. That's what we're talking about. The product.
That's true. I think it still is on their shoulders individually, and I think the blame falls on their shoulders, and the bad PR of it falls on their shoulders. Because you could also look at Ed Matthews killing swarms in 30 seconds and go, well, that's good for product. So I think the individual performances and efforts. I don't know. I mean, it's boxing. It's UFC. If I watch a UFC fight and one guy just doesn't show up, does that reflect on the UFC?
Not at all.
No, the same thing with this. I mean, Misfits is the gold standard in influencer boxing. Mams Taylor has done an amazing job from every single angle. I will say this: the commentating was interesting tonight.
Yes, WWE, 2 WWE guys.
Yeah, Coachman,
Jonathan Coachman, and the other guy.
And Helwani obviously was in the broadcast. I feel bad for Ariel because I think he strained his voice.
He shouldn't have been there. They should have put someone else in there. We couldn't understand him. He was scared. He just was timid. His voice was messed up.
I don't know if I would say scared and timid.
Come on,
I think he was selective about when he would speak because of
run. Did you see him run?
Hey, he got some jets on him, baby. He got out of there quick at the when it popped off.
Yeah.
No, I mean, to his credit, it's not Ariel's job to step in there in that moment. That's why you have security, Chris. I know what you're doing. I know what game you're playing right now, and I'm not going to play it. I like Ariel. He's a buddy of mine.
Listen, I like Ariel too, but he did run a little bit.
I think when you look at the broadcast and how strained his voice was, because I've been there, man. I mean, shit. Yeah. I had a show where I was live for 14 hours. I was commentating 32 fights, and yeah, that's like literally 2 UFC cards, right? Nonstop. And it affects your vocal cords when you're projecting, when you're leveraging your diaphragm. Like, even if you are conscientious and drinking tea and you have your honey on you, it can still wear you down. I think Ariel just got a bit worn down, and I respect him for still doing the post-fight interviews in the ring and still being a voice in the commentating booth. And I don't know. I think I'll talk about my fight and provide my thoughts on the Misfits and influencer boxing commentating through the lens of my fight, because I don't want to be disparaging. But I was very disappointed by how at times they were making up bullshit that didn't exist. And like, case in point, they were talking about how I've been eating pizza all week and eating sausages, and we didn't know if he was going to make weight or not. That was not true. I have not had a slice of pizza in 3 months. I was eating yogurt and like eggs and fruit every morning at breakfast and working my ass off. I'd lost 15 pounds during this training camp. So like, the time that they spent making jokes about my physique. That could have been spent building the narrative of the fight. That could have been spent, commentating on the fight itself. Like, I think that at times the selection of what these commentators say it's not servicing the athletes the best. And as a play-by-play, I want to service the athletes the best. I want them to always watch their fights back and go, man, the commentating team propped me up and they gave me so much love, and they really, I brought 110% and they brought 110%. That's always my goal. And so I felt like at times they don't do that in influencer boxing. And that's not good.
Not good. And you're absolutely correct, Ben. All of our Twitter family, I'm kind of new to the Twitter family, we all rallied behind you for your fight, and we all watched it, and everybody was excited.
Yeah. I'm not trying to make it about
this. Yeah. Let me just say this. The only reason why most of us watched last 3 weeks ago fight, the X series, is because of you. That's the only reason why we watched it. I can say that for a ton of people. I'm just saying, for my community, for my circle, we watched it for you. And they didn't do you much justice as far as the things that they were saying.
No.
I didn't appreciate it. Mac Malley didn't appreciate it. And I'm glad you brought it up.
And the reason I bring it up about mine, because I'm not trying to make this about me, obviously. We're talking about a lot of other things. But I'm like, I just see that happen too frequently. I see that type of commentating happen too frequently, to the point where even tonight there were fights where I'm like, why are they going on these tangents? Why aren't they redirecting back to the fight or building up the narrative a little bit more? And I don't know. I think from a production element, like you mentioned, WWE, they're really dipping into the WWE side of things, which is fine. I mean, it's influencer boxing. I'm not saying that we have to approach this. It'd be hypocritical of me to say we got to approach this super seriously and take it like a UFC type show. But, sometimes too much WWE isn't good, and you got to be selective.
I don't know about that, Jonathan Coachman. I've been a fan of WWE since I've been 10 years old. I've been around it. Now, here's my thing. Like, I get what they're trying to do, but maybe do a little bit more studying and learning a little bit more about the fighters and their backgrounds, so you won't have to, ad lib and throw these little jokes in here because you don't really have much to say or some information,
Yeah, and that's like, for me, I always have like fighter one-on-ones, during fight weeks. Like, I'm going to Flex on the 19th to do a show after the weigh-ins. Guess what? I'll be talking to every single fighter for a couple minutes just to get the narrative, just to get what their fight camp was like, and, learn a bit more about them outside the cage. I can tell you from my firsthand experience, I didn't have a one-on-one with anybody when I was in Newcastle. There was no like broadcast sit-down meetings. There was no, hey, here's how my fight camp went. Here's where my head is at. And I think that that's a problem. Yeah, I think that if you're not doing fighter one-on-ones, then you run into that brick wall of, I'm not presenting you correctly because I don't fucking know you, because I didn't sit down and talk to you. Yeah. So how on earth am I going to be able to cue you up and discuss your fight camp when we haven't had that conversation? So I don't know. I mean, that is one thing that I definitely would bring. I would hope that gets brought into influencer boxing. The broadcasting side of it is those one-on-ones, because it's invaluable.
Especially right after the weigh-ins is when you should interview them guys and get the information and and give them a little rub. That's what we do.
Even like because when we did the we signed posters, and then we took like the behind the scenes photos for the Tale of the Tapes and the marketing material. And then you had like a brief sit down with DAZN and like the Misfits team, where we had strips of paper, and you grabbed him from a bowl, and it was like, oh, do you believe in aliens? And like, that was a quick video that they were doing. I'm like, if you just add another table and you just have the fucking commentator or somebody sit there and you go, okay, here's the next station of the room. You're done with your photos. You're done with the fun Misfits YouTube content. Now you get your broadcast interview. Just add that, I'm like, I was thinking the whole time. I was waiting for it. I was waiting to, meet Todd or Roundhouse Radio, who's one of the commentators, and on the Small Council. Cause I was expecting that. I was like, oh, where's the one-on-one? But either way, like, again, it's still developing. Like, that's what's so great about influencer boxing, is it is still finding the rhythm, and every show is getting better, and they're developing a lot more new things. And I don't know, in an era where the UFC monopolization is looming and kind of terrifying at times, right? It's nice to have competition. It's nice to have other fish in the sea. And I like what they did. I thought the prime card was good. The fights themselves, yeah, main and co-main weren't the best, but overall, man, like I thought it was a good event.
Absolutely great event. Now, I asked you earlier, I said, I just wanted you to give one compliment to Dillon Danis. And your compliment was
He didn't get finished.
Okay, that's fine. I'm going to give him a huge compliment. He carried this card. He made millions of people watch it. He may have showed up and was a dud, but without him, there wouldn't have been that many eyes on this card. And that's the truth, man.
Yeah, I think you are completely correct. Nobody marketed this inflated how big it was more than Dillon Danis. If you looked at the numbers, I mean, shit, he posted his Twitter analytics and it was 2 billion impressions. And that was like a month before the fight. Who knows how many more he got in those last couple weeks and of course tonight. So there is a lot of credit that can be given to the promotion that Danis did. And I find myself maybe not agreeing with it, on a personal moral level. It's kind of kindergarten, elementary tier trash, quote unquote trash talking. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's so good at trash talk." I'm like, he's just posting photos of Logan's fiance. Like that's not.
Yeah, he's got guys.
That's not trash talk.
He's got friends and cronies sending him pictures and hacking her OnlyFans or whatever. And let me say this again. Yes, Dillon Danis did promote this fight, but he has to be. Ben, I don't know if we'll ever get this information.
Mm-hmm.
He has to have got pay-per-view points, right?
I would be surprised if he didn't. I would be shocked.
Not?
But here's the thing, like if Danis didn't get pay-per-view points, it's because Danis didn't negotiate well enough, or Danis
doesn't have a manager.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think that he made a shit ton of money, and he certainly earned the right to pay-per-view points.
Shit ton of money. Let's get into that real quick, Ben.
Yeah.
Dillon Danis really doesn't have much money. His family has money, right?
Right. That's fair.
Okay. He stays with a lot of friends. I'm not even sure if he has his own house or apartment. He has a child that he just had a few weeks ago or a month that doesn't even have a name yet. He's going to be sued for millions of dollars, and his lawyer fees and her lawyer fees. They're not going away. How much do you think he actually made from this fight?
So a lot of that is, I feel, high speculation, what you just said. I'm not going to co-sign a lot of.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Because I've heard. Yeah, right. I mean, hey, listen, I've got to be protective sometimes with what I say. I've heard a lot of different things. I have heard some of that, right? The couch hopping and the family wealth that Danis is kind of originating from. And, you talk about the lawsuit, right?
He hasn't worked in 3 years, brother.
No, yeah, okay. But he's got his
no money from social media
outside the crypto scams.
What's that?
Outside the crypto scams, probably not.
Right, but yeah, exactly. But he's not making any money. He's not competing. He doesn't have sponsors. He's not making money on his socials. I mean, I know a lot of the people around him. I know the people that he used to train with. I know the Tom DeBlasses. I know the Gordons. I'm not trying to slam him. I'm just saying, how much could he have made from this fight to cover what the damages he did in the last 2 months? I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, bro.
I'm not sure.
He's still violating it by posting pictures and talking about her. I mean, he's still violating it. So, I mean, I don't even know how this all plays out. But let me just say this real quick. Was this all a script? Was this whole thing a script?
We're talking about two people, especially Logan Paul, who is known for it's WWE. It's sports entertainment. I wouldn't be shocked if this lawsuit doesn't exist. I wouldn't be shocked if that's a little bit of a facade,
Marketing
and
genius.
marketing, it's PR, man. And like, when you think about Logan Paul, this is a guy that marketed himself out of the absolute worst scandal possible, like 5 years ago,
Let's touch
filming
on that. Let's touch on that real quick, please, for the people that do not know.
Sure.
Just real quick.
So
5 years ago.
About 5 years ago, I might be getting the dates wrong, of course. So anytime, anyone, feel free to correct me. But Logan Paul was in the Suicide Forest. I think it's in Japan, but again, I'm not sure about the geography. He's in this forest, and it's known for being a place where people will go, to end their lives, as sad as that is. And they find a dead body. Shocker! Who would have fucking thought? And like the smart guys they are, filmed it, edited it, put it in a YouTube video. And obviously there was backlash, and obviously the whole world condemned him, and he releases this tearful apology that, again, I was like, this is bullshit. What a terrible apology. And it looked bad. It looked very bleak. And then KSI links up with him, and they get Prime going. And then WWE brings him in, and he's killing it in WWE. And now he's boxing and has a good performance tonight. So the turnaround.
And he signed a contract with the UFC.
And yes, the Prime hydration corners. Yeah, working with the UFC. Yeah. So I would not be shocked to learn that all of this was some concoction from the greater PR group at KSI, Logan Paul, and like you said, Dillon Danis doesn't have an agent, manager, whatever else. I don't know who his team is, but wouldn't fucking shock me to learn.
He's got one guy. Who's that guy you brought with him? He's a fighter, a UFC fighter.
Peter Quealy.
But the guy with the blonde hair that we was training with, that was doing the open workouts with, he's a UFC fighter. Phil Haas, I believe.
Oh, Phil Haas. Yeah. No hype. That's the only
person I saw him with, even in the car when he rolled up. I mean, so this is my theory, right? Because I can do theories, because that's what my job is. I write, I come up with stuff. Here's my theory, Ben. Nina was struggling on socials. Her OnlyFans was not hitting. Mm-hmm. They got this thing going, man. They I mean, how many pay-per-view buys do you think they sold? Million? Over?
I wouldn't be stunned. And again, this is where, like, the pay-per-view sales to me is hard to predict, because I know that the price point varied greatly depending on where you were. But
$54.99 for me here in the US, on top of my $19.99 monthly subscription. Okay?
I wouldn't be stunned if it did 2 million. I know that that's a lot. But this is biggest. This is the biggest influencer card in history. For 5, 6, 7 years, they've been working towards today. And I genuinely will not be surprised if you hear Monday or Tuesday, whenever they release the pay-per-view numbers, that it cracks 2 mil. These guys have some of the biggest influence in the world. Look at KSI. Look at the Sidemen. The impression and digital footprint that they have, and the interest that they're able to garner. And then, of course, what Danis was doing over the last few months, I wouldn't be shocked if it hit 2 million. Now, were all the fights great? Did they deliver? That's a different conversation. But I could stack it. I could digest 2 million buys.
I'm going to go over some numbers real quick. They're going to kill me for this, but who cares? Mm-hmm. UFC 229, 2.4 million pay-per-view buys, 180 million revenue from the pay-per-view. And I believe back then it was at $59.99, I believe. So it's very close, 2.4 million. I don't think they came close to that. I'm going to say 1.5 million, but they're going to be pumping. They're going to 120, 150 million in pay-per-view money. Plus they're getting the DAZN subscription. I mean, when we bought this pay-per-view back in 2018, it was $59.99 for the HD, I believe. And we weren't paying for the ESPN $9.99. It was straight. It was straight to the UFC for the money. So, like you said, this was everywhere. Everyone was watching this. So,
and like you said, that's revenue generated strictly from the pay-per-view. That's not even including the sponsorships, the Prime Hydra. I mean, Prime is everywhere. You got to think that Logan and KSI were given a ton to have that branding. And
you see that car? The
Lambo.
Woo.
Oh yeah, dude. I'll say this. I think KSI's had better walkouts. I felt that was a bit awkward. You know, the camera angle of him just sitting there for like, dude, for way too long. I'm like, get out of the car.
Is he
like,
locked in there?
Yeah, I genuinely thought for half a second that they locked KSI in the Lamborghini.
He looked small in there. Didn't he look small?
Yeah. It was. I like the ambition behind it, but the execution, I was like, because then he gets out, and then there's another pause before like his music starts, and the guy comes out. So I didn't love the walkout this time around, but yeah, it's a lot of money. You know, these guys are playing it's kind of like a Scrooge McDuck, you know, where they can just dive into a pool of gold, I think at this point. And who knows what's going to happen moving forward. You know, again, I know they have an event on November 17th. I'm bummed that it's the 17th. If it was November 24th, then I do think that I would have had the chance to go maybe do some commentary for it, get on the booth. But yeah, I unable to do it. And I think that might be a little too soon. I know that they're trying to do monthly events, but I think after this was a big card. This was big. Do it in December. Yeah, take a month off, you know, let this scene. Yeah, exactly close out the year with a card that's like 80% as good, you know, because I know the one in November, I'm not FaZe Jarvis is in the main event. Outside of that, I'm not sure who's on it. But you just don't want to water it down. You don't want to dilute. You know, that's what we're talking about with these UFC fight nights at this point, right? Man, some of these cards, you and I.
So diluted, bro.
We've been watching the sport for years, and I'm like, I don't know who these people are. you know,
why are they still doing events at the Apex? You can't even go in. Listen, let me just. I'm gonna go on a rant real quick.
Go on a rant. You got time.
I've been doing this stuff for a long time. I've been in the media for a long time. I'm getting turned down from media credentials for the UFC Apex events. We've got freaking 4 million followers, man. I mean, when I go to these events and I cover them, they're getting incredible, you know, publicity and you know, marketing. So UFC MMA Uncensored is trying to get their press passes. Could you somebody approve them for me, please? Don't let me get bags from the Overdog podcast just to come at you.
I think it's always tricky. I think, you know, the credentialing process, and I know that they are very tight. Like I've been denied every time, which I've been denied every time, which is like, I get that. I wouldn't, you know, if I'm. And this is different because Uncensored is different from me personally. But like before this, when I was pretty heavy in doing the media and like working with some outlets, I would request and get denied, and I'd be like, "That's fine." You know, I understand that it's selective and there's a lot that goes into it, and you would think, I mean, you would hope that they recognize the size of a brand like Uncensored and be like, okay, there's more benefit than negative.
What it is? I know what it is. That fucking douchebag, the schmo. I bet he's fucking with my credentials.
No, I don't know if schmo can. I don't know if he has that power. But he's a great example of like, you know.
Let me just say something about the schmo. Besides that, he's a dickhead. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, I like Dave. I really enjoy Helen too.
I used to like Dave when he was a decent person, but he became a dickhead over the last few years.
He's their own. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm cool with them.
The things that I say on this show doesn't reflect Ben.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. I don't get that clear. Yeah, I don't get Ben in trouble.
Yeah, I don't co-sign with everything.
Not everything.
But no, yeah. Let's see. What else from? Fair enough. I think they're all.
Is there anything you need to get in, Ben? Is there anything you need to get in today? Besides, the commentary needs to be a little better when Ben's got the gloves on,
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'd love to be in there and help out, but and it's not like a true knock. Like Todd Grisham's fantastic. Roundhouse Radio is doing a good job at improving at color commentary. And again, I think that there's some great building blocks. But me, I'm a potential guy. I'm like, well, what potential aren't we realizing? And that is a spot where I think it's just easy to up the quality by a couple degrees.
Didn't you get a recent job offer or a recent didn't you get hired recently to do some of what you're doing now? Did you want to let anybody know about that?
Well, obviously, I do play-by-play for a living. You know, I work for Uriah Faber at Uriah Faber's A1 Combat. Make sure you go tune in November 17th. We got a show. I work for Anthony Pettis, former UFC champion Anthony Pettis,
APFC
AP.
MMA.
APFC live on UFC Fight Pass, November 18th. Make sure you tune in. We've got Rampage Jackson, Nate Diaz is going to be there. Chris Angel's going to be there. I think we've got one more special guest that I'm just forgetting because, like, dude, APFC is killing it. They are the gold standard right now, in my opinion, of regional MMA. So those two shows, I do Flex Fight Series in New York. I do the show down in Columbia when I remember my passport. And don't forget that.
Mams Taylor, didn't you talk to Mams?
And Mams and I had a very, very good conversation. It was productive. Him and I are on the same page as it pertains to a lot of certain things. And, we're still a bit away from anything that I can announce or something I would want to say too publicly. But, they had me in to do the co-main event, face Temper and Ginty after my fight. And I believe that the Zone and Mams and everybody was very happy with my contribution. So
we were all very happy.
I'll leave it at that for now. But no, I think like moving forward is so much positive, and I am curious to see what that November 17th event looks like for influencer boxing, how it shapes up. Maybe, we're saying, hey, wait till December. Maybe that event's going to come together and we're going to be like, wow, these are some fucking banger fights. I'm glad we have this event. So I think the future's bright, and it keeps getting better. And again, I'll get back in there in some way, shape, or form. But let's see. Anything else, Chris, that you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Yeah, real quick. I got nothing against this Schmo. I was just joking.
We like Dave. We like Dave. And
Dave's a good guy. He's a tough person to get along with, but Dave's a good guy. And I just wanted to let him know, if you're watching this, Dave, today I actually unblocked you on Instagram.
So you had him blocked?
Yeah. Well, I had to block him because he would go on his Instagram and send me nasty messages, and then when I blocked him there, he'd go on Helen Yee's and then send messages from Helen. So, but today I was feeling really nice, and I said, you know what? I'm going to unblock the Schmo so he can actually come to my page and watch the Overdogs podcast.
And Can Pie Media, baby. Make sure you tune in.
That's why I did it. Because I think the Schmo really needs to watch this show, because we could teach him a few things.
You know what? 2024, Chris, I think is going to be the year of reuniting and building and rebuilding bridges and not burning any relationships. That's my focus. In the media.
It's cutthroat, Ben.
This is why I don't talk shit too much.
But here's the thing: when you're in a news media company like me, people are always like, they get jealous because you broke the news or you have a better interview. So, honestly, we have a few people that don't like us out there, but
that's all right.
People do. And let me just say this real quick. Today is October 14th, and you and me, will be in the Dominican on November 2nd through November 4th for Karate Combat 42. And let me tell you, this event is going to blow the doors off of it. And then KC 43 is a month later in Las Vegas. I believe it's December 15th, a Friday. And that is right before the UFC 296 fight card, Leon Edwards versus Colby Chaos Covington, T-Mobile Arena.
Oh, I didn't even realize that it was the next day. We got to go to that too, man. We got to stay in Vegas. We're going. We're fucking going.
We're fucking going.
Hey, MMA
How
Uncensored.
exciting is that?
That's so fucking exciting.
That's Christmas for us. That's our Christmas.
Yeah. And then, hey, Fury Pro Grappling, December 30th.
Oof,
stay tuned. Stay tuned. There might be an announcement.
Oh, wow. Well, real quick, everybody. This is the first of many lives we're going to do. Ben's going to, just stay tuned. Ben's got a lot of plans, and we're going to build this YouTube. A lot of the stuff we're going to do, just stay tuned. It's in infancy.
Yeah, 2024, baby. It's going to take off. But
I'm
either way. We'll close out there. The Prime card concludes, as does UFC Vegas 81. Barboza gets it done. Tommy Fury gets it done. Logan Paul gets it done. And we are done. Chris Ben the Bane Davis, MMA Uncensored. Thank you guys for tuning in. And we We'll see you soon.
See you next week.